The federal government just cleared themselves to use lethal force against the American public should the American public disagree politically with the federal government. And I'm not making a single word of what I just set up, and it's actually scarier than what I just said. Welcome to this week's episode of
Now the news.
It's the News, a Tacticon armament show. So last week, while Trump was on a world tour, absolutely crushing it from political rallies to Joe Rogan interviews and other podcasts since 2015 and kind of the emergence of Trump into the political realm, I've yet to see Trump really handle himself as well as he has recently. Trump has been poised, well-spoken, he's made excellent points, and his interview with Joe Rogan was probably the best that I've ever seen him. He seemed kind, humble, honest, and he made an argument where he just wants to end government waste and downscale the government, stop spending so much taxpayer dollars, and even floated the idea of removing income tax altogether by using a tariff system to fund the government.
Just float out the idea of getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs?
Well, okay.
Were we serious about that?
Yeah, sure. But why not? Because ready?
And while Trump is out doing absolutely phenomenal on the campaign trail, Kamala Harris is falling completely apart.
Okay, now I want each of you to shout your own name. Do that. Because it's about all of us. It's about all of us. And listen.
It's totally insane that we're supposed to believe that that's an adult human being that should be leader of the free world. And she can't manage a political rally. Who in God's name would tell an entire 30,000 person crowd chanting your name to stop and to chant their own name? They're totally insane. And the laughter, that insane cackle that follows it. She was clearly terrified of what she had just said. As soon as she heard the crowd go quiet, she knew she'd made a mistake and she had no recovery for it at all. And it's not just the fact that Kamala Harris is a part of the current administration, the same administration that's just completely destroyed the economy, bankrupted the United States, and driven us closer to World War III. It's that she's just a really bad politician. This is a clip of her getting heckled, and you can see it. She just has no idea what to do. She keeps looking over her shoulder for help from someone off stage. No one's coming, Kamala. It's your show to run.
To turn the page on the fear.
And it's not just melting down and having panic attacks on stage. She's been trying out lots of different accents. This one is probably my favorite.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. The path may seem hard, the work may seem heavy, but joy cometh in the morning, and church morning is on its way.
And joy may cometh in the morning, but the federal government cometh at night.
FBI, open up!
The powers that be are well aware that the Kamala administration and team are not going to win this race. The question is, how are they going to handle the fact that they cannot allow the Trump administration to take power? When you have individuals like Elon Musk promising to cut 80% of the federal government, it is a direct threat to the establishment, to the power structure that exists there. Stack on top of that RFK pledging to come after organizations like the FDA, which has been poisoning us and your children and our society for as long as it's existed, or organizations like the FBI that has been spying on us since its inception. It seems like the political powers, the structures, the system that exists has an incentive to protect itself, to defend itself, and that is exactly what they're doing. A new DoD Directive 5240.01 has allowed the federal government to activate the active duty military up to and including lethal force against the United States public should the United States citizens be deemed a threat to democracy. And let's all take a big deep breath and remember that the current administration just spent the last 4 years telling you that if you voted for anyone other than them, you too are a threat to democracy.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
They have drawn a very clear line on who they think is a threat to democracy, and it's you, it's me, it's the American citizen that doesn't think that I should give the government 150% of what I make. It's anyone who believes that they should have personal choice, even if your personal choice is something that I disagree with. If you fall down the line of LGBTQ things that exit the world of stuff that I'm okay with, you're also a threat to democracy because you believe in personal independence and personal choice, and you don't want the government to tell you how to live your life or who you can love. If you still think that the federal government is on your side, you've lost the thread of logic. When you give a ruling class so much power and control over you, it's just a matter of time until it turns against you. If you give the federal government the right to illegally spy on you through this new directive, or to use active duty soldiers to enforce our local civil laws, you are allowing organizations like the Trump administration or whoever might get into power next after this next election to use that authority also. This is a road that we cannot go down as a country. This is a road that we should not allow the federal government to go down. And it's worth just really briefly explaining. The active duty military has never been allowed to operate on American soil. The CIA is not allowed to operate on American soil.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
The apparatus that defends our country is not allowed to be directed at the people it defends. But no longer is that the case. This directive doesn't just open up the active duty military to use lethal threat against the United States citizens, it also allows the CIA and the entire intelligence apparatus to be fully unleashed on the U.S. citizens. And it's a stretch to say the CIA isn't operating on American soil, but this just clears the way for them to do it legally. And this, like always, is the point of this show. It isn't about what's legal. It's about what's right and wrong. It's about drawing a line for yourself, for your family, for your friends, neighbors, for the country. That's just a line drawn in morality. Drawing a line for yourself that's just a determination on what you believe is morally right and what you believe is morally wrong. Do you believe in defending the sanctity of other people, or do you think that the federal government should have warrantless surveillance of all American citizens? If you're just too naive to look down the road and understand that giving the federal government that kind of power will ultimately get used against both sides, then I don't really know what to say anymore. You cannot allow other human beings to have that much control and surveillance abilities over every single thing that we do as people without that system going sour. There's an old saying, but it's very true. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and you can see it with the federal government. We're not in an argument about which political party is better. We're in an argument about whether or not the federal government has good intentions for us, the American people. It's time to draw a line, it's time to publicly say no, and it's time to dismantle these security apparatuses that don't actually protect the American people. They just spend all of their time spying on the American people to make sure that they don't lose power and control. It's time for us, the American people, to vote out this system of power. And it isn't about agreeing with Trump on everything that he says, and it isn't about becoming a conservative. I'm a pretty diehard libertarian myself, but at the end of the day, gutting this system and trying something new is the only way that we have forward in the future. Our tax system is ready to explode, our economy is teetering on the edge of complete failure, and the only thing the federal government has really managed to do is to transplant 25 million people that aren't American citizens and then allow itself to spy on the American citizens as if we, the tax-paying natural-born citizens, are the actual threat to our sovereignty, to our safety, to our own democracy. It's time that you say no. And it's time that we, as a society of free men and women, make our country and our government what we want it to be. So remember, it's okay to be dangerous. And I'll see you guys soon.